Premier, first of all, have you had any further thoughts on your political future once we reach October the 20th? Are you going to stay on in Parliament?
I would stay on just for a short time, and that's really to stop a by-election happening basically the week before Christmas, which I think would be really unfair on the people of Salisbury to be dragged to the polls. People of Salisbury have been really good to me over 25 years, and so I just think that it would be unfair on them to pull people out to the polls in the week before Christmas or in a new year. So I'm likely to stay on for a little time just to basically to avoid that happening. I think that would be really selfish, so I want to avoid that if possible.
You've consistently told the people of Salisbury that you wanted to serve until 2014 and beyond. When did you change your mind and decide on the March deadline next year?
I was quite happy to go on beyond that, and essentially what happened was that about March of this year, there was talks with various party leaders, both inside and outside the parliamentary party, about what I might do. And at that stage, there was strong support for John Rowell to go in the position of Deputy Premier, and the idea was that to perhaps have a year or so to see how people performed in terms of future leadership. So essentially, people were looking at Jay Weatherill, John Rowell, and maybe even Jack Snelling as being a successor to me. But the deal is that I would not step down unless there was an agreed successor. So I was happy to keep going, but if there was an agreed successor, then I would step down gracefully to support them after a period of basically transition. So I'm quite happy to have stayed on in the role of Premier as long as it was necessary. What I wanted to avoid was a split because of strong support for two contenders, which I think would have been divisive and wouldn't have been good for the government. So I was quite happy to go along with an arrangement which was okay, there'll be a transition to someone else when there was an agreed successor. And I guess what happened is that agreed successor, the agreement occurred sooner than they anticipated and sooner than I expected.
Was there ever a point, though, where you were saying publicly, look, I'm going to serve until 2014 and beyond, when you knew full well that you weren't?
The thing is that if I'd said, if I'd named a date, one, it would have been wrong, and secondly, I would have then been lame duck for 2 years, and that wouldn't have been good as Premier. What I've done now is named the date. It's only 2 months away. I've got some things to tidy up, and obviously I've mentioned Olympic Dam, but there's a few other things. I mean, what I've been doing, in fact, all year is really sort of ticking off boxes. Okay, really important to get started on the hospital after, years of controversy. Really important to get started on the Adelaide Oval and get agreement on that. And obviously there's a number of things in a pipeline that I wanted to actually either get started or get wrapped up. And one of them is the Olympic Dam negotiations with BHP Billiton, of which I've had years and years of involvement. One of the things I like doing is negotiating, and I want to negotiate to get the best deal, and then it's basically, I'm out of there after that.
By setting that artificial deadline, if you like, though, on those negotiations, haven't you given BHP Billiton a powerful position for them to negotiate?
No, not at all, because I will always put the state's interests first. I wouldn't have named that date if I didn't think that I could crack the deal before then. And Kevin Foley's doing magnificent work in the negotiations. In fact, at the moment, he's doing the bulk of the negotiations, and I get called in at certain stages, and in the next few weeks I'll be in Melbourne sitting down with Marius Kloppers, who's the head of BHP Billiton worldwide, in order to crack the final deal, and I'm pretty sure we can get all of that done in time.
Just on Kevin Foley, has he confided in you his future, or are you expecting there to be a by-election in his seat at the same time as yours?
No, I'm not aware of that. That's really up to Kevin. I mean, Kevin's doing a damn good job, and he knows he'll always have my support. That's up to him.
When were you first aware that Jay Weatherill was likely to have the full support of the party? Because he said this morning that he was aware at least a few months ago. Were you aware before that Friday meeting?
There were rumours around that things were moving that way towards Jay being an agreed successor, but it hadn't. My information was that hadn't yet been resolved. So in terms of a direct advice, it happened on that Friday afternoon, and I was comfortable about that. Jay and I have always got on well. I've always thought that it would be either him or John Rao. I thought they were the two most likely to succeed, and both have a range of attributes and talents. And so I had no problem whatsoever with Jay Weatherill being chosen. I think he'll be a terrific Premier, and I think he'll win the next election. But I did object to dishonest leaking of the contents of a confidential discussion. But I mean, those things happen in politics. But information about the meeting was not only leaked, but it was also leaked in a grossly distorted way.
Do you believe that leak was designed to put a bomb under you politically, if you like?
I think it was done through mischief. I think it was done through malice. But the person who did it did not have the best interest of the Labor Party and did not have the best interest of the government or the state in mind. And I think that the person who gave the information to you basically did a disservice to, not just to me, but also to Jay and to the government. So they didn't get their own way.
That night you denied you'd had a meeting with power brokers with them telling you that you should leave before the state convention. What did they tell you about timing?
Basically what they said to me was that we have now decided effectively on Jay and thought that about bringing forward the time of my departure. So it was not like you've got to go tomorrow, or it was not an ultimatum. I mean, that was the thing, that what was leaked to you actually was leaked prior to the meeting taking place. So the person who gave you the information was based on knowledge that they couldn't possibly have had because they weren't at the meeting.
What was your reaction to them telling you that that time frame had been brought forward? I
was surprised because I thought that the whole arrangement had been entered into to give John Rao a chance as a brand new Deputy Premier. But I mean, I didn't have any problems with it being Jay Weatherill at all, and I think that Jay will be terrific for the job.
How do you think a Jay Weatherill government will be different from a Mike Rann government? Do you think people out there are asking what is the point of this change? If it's just for change's sake, how will the government change with you gone?
Everybody has different styles, and and that's a good thing. And we're not bland. It's not the bland leading the bland. It's about different styles, individuals. And Jay has got a terrifically different style to me and others. People criticise Kevin Foley. He gets things done. People criticise Pat Conlon. He gets things done. People criticise David Capo as Social Inclusion Commissioner. That's because he gets things done. Jay gets things done too, but he does it in a different way. I think that's good. I mean, I'm a huge close friend of John Bannon, and obviously I was very close to Don Dunstan as well. You couldn't get three more different individuals than those three Labor premiers. We all happen to be, of course, very close. But we all bring our personalities and also our interest. I mean, by my own appointment of myself to be the world's first climate change minister, which has now been hundreds of them around the world, is because I have a passion for that area. And that's something that I'd quite like to be involved with in the future.
Have you given any thought to where your career will go after politics?
What I'd like to do is a sort of a mixture of things. I mean, I guess the only thing I've ever feared in life is being bored. I can't imagine being bored. So what I'd like to do is to work on the causes that I most believe in, and if there are voluntary roles or other roles, then I'd be happy to look at those. But rather than one job, I could imagine me being involved in a number of good causes that have been sort of part of my makeup. Have
you had discussions with others, with Kevin Rudd, with others about any postings?
No, this is sort of fiction. I love the job that I've got, and I've got a couple of months now to tidy things up. And it's not just the BHP Billiton, there's a few other projects that I'm very personally involved in trying to deliver to South Australia. And so I'm concentrating on that, and then afterwards I'll start looking around for other things that I can do. But the point is that whatever it is, it'll be busy and hopefully in a good cause.
Do you expect to remain in South Australia?
Oh, look, obviously we've got a home here and I've got family here, Sasha's got family here, so I would imagine that South Australia will be our base, but I can imagine it being involved in causes elsewhere as well.
You spoke there of a couple of things that you would like to do in addition to Olympic Dam. Are you able to give us...
Not yet, because there's a couple in the arts area. There's also another major project that essentially, I'm the only one who's really involved in, and I want, certainly at the start, so I just want to see if I can wrap that up. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want Melbourne to nick it. I mean, one of the things that I've been trying to do, when I looked at the things that I had to tick, hospital, getting that going, the Oval getting that going, but it's also making sure that we didn't lose the licence for the Tour Down Under. That was really important. Didn't want to see that being nicked by anybody else. So what I've been doing through the year is, I've got a kind of a checklist which I'm ticking off, and there's about 3 or 4 things I've got to go, and then I can say thank you and goodbye.